So last time, Scotchy, we had to play Devil May Cry, which you were not very fond of, as I recall.
I'm still not fond of it. I want to punch that game in the face.
Despite that, I think Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is an excellent game, probably better than that game was.
You know, I will go ahead and just straight out say, I had a lot more fun with this game. Parts of it are pretty dumb, but it's a fun kind of dumb. I never got angry. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't get angry often playing this game.
I mean, one of the things I really liked about this game was the ninja run ability. And even though this game doesn't really emphasize platforming and stuff, they were able to put in, a whole bunch of jumps and, obstacle kind of areas and, crazy environments where, all sorts of shit is happening. You're being shot at through glass windows. Because you can just hold the ninja run button. It's kind of simplistic, I would say, but it's just really smooth, and Ryan just hops over stuff and he slides underneath obstacles, and it's really just fun, even if it's not all that complicated. The one thing that's kind of a little bit counterintuitive is you want to use Ninja Run as a kind of dodge. And you find out quickly that Ninja Run is not a dodge. Because people you'll still get hit by random things when you try to ninja run out of the way. It just doesn't function as a dodge.
Yeah, you can't get out of the way. You'll just ninja run into the dude's face.
And you'll ninja run into the chainsaw or the giant blades or the whatever it is that's trying to hit you.
Fucking geckos.
In this game, you have to parry everything, as we pointed out. And I realized that you dislike the lack of a dodge button. And I'm kind of on the fence about it myself. It really feels like there should be a dodge button, but by the same token, I think the lack of a dodge button kind of lets them make the bosses more difficult. As opposed to, say, giant derp things, you just flail around and you hit the dodge button at the right time to avoid them. But overall, I think that the bosses in particular were well handled. You got the parry mechanic, you've got some quick times, you've got, some maybe slightly less obvious ways to attack the boss, and in general, I thought this game had well-done bosses, and in contrast to other games, I died frequently on these bosses.
It had well-done boss fights. The bosses themselves are fucking stupid.
Okay, I will admit that some of the bosses themselves are less than stellar characters.
All of the bosses, except for Captain Mexico. He's the only remotely interesting one. Everybody else is just a caricature, or fucking Armstrong just comes out of left field, dude.
That he does. I don't know where he came from, but at least he was interesting. Blade mode is really awesome.
Yeah, Blade mode's pretty cool. I do, and I mentioned this, but it gets goofy sometimes depending on what you cut up and how it cuts up. Yeah. And sometimes it's just dude, I've sliced that thing into so many fucking pieces. Poor bastard. Yeah.
The Blade mode really reads better later on in the game when against Sundowner or against Armstrong, when you have to cut certain places.
When things are specific.
And that makes more sense. That makes it feel kind of, really interesting, as opposed to, like you said, with Metal Gear Ray, you're just blah, 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 blah. You can watch me just, hack at it into, tiny little splinters.
Exhibit was fun. I liked Exhibit. He's Exhibit, dude. I don't know.
Overall, I thought the support team was, in general, more fleshed out, as opposed to something like, say, Metal Gear Solid 3, while it was great, you basically had just Major Zero in that game, who was, at all, given an actual personality besides, oh, I'm a giant sci-fi geek, or, oh, I like to blow things up. It's because you don't have to... It is true that if you go talk on the codec, you can get a whole lot more about each character.
Oh, there's tons of stuff.
But besides that, they'll still talk to you in the course of the game, and you get to see, it's the interesting little implication, because you see the implication that Courtney is a klutz before they show her knocking over the coffee cup at the end of the game. Because the first time you see it, he's moving the cup away from her so she doesn't knock it over, and you don't actually see her knock the cup over until much later. So it's an interesting sort of, subtle thing that you can, pick up on if you were watching carefully. Or you could not and just be like, oh my god, it's Exhibit, and he's got awesome hair.
But it is, it's a very good point, and it's something that I hope that Kojima will follow in Metal Gear 5. I like getting to see the codec people do stuff. Mm-hmm. You get a little, I guess a little bit of that in 4, because, Otacon and the Colonel are, in your plane half the
Plane
time or
ship,
whatever.
yeah, thing.
But then it's like they're just only on the plane, whereas like you see Boris like come to your rescue like in the APC and the doctor's in the helicopter and like people do stuff.
You get the notion that they exist outside of sitting in the command room to just give you advice whenever you call.
Like Wolf is with you half the time.
Right.
He's saying stuff, but it's cool.
I very much like that about the way they handled the support cast. So that was definitely a thumbs up from me. Speaking of Wolf, definitely my favorite character of this game. Even though he's questionably a character at best, but just the fact that he's there to kind of be a foil to Raiden amuses me to no end.
Wolf was fun. Like, I don't know if he was my favorite, but he was fun.
I really like Wolf.
In terms of favorite, Sundowner. Sundowner a million times. I'm from Alabama. And like, war's good. Like, oh god. Even more than Armstrong, because Armstrong is just like, it's funny, but he's weird.
Yeah.
Sundowner is just such a like caricature that like
he's self-parodying at that point. He's just a parody of himself because he's like I'm evil. I can't even do that voice.
But at the same time, like I want to meet like the Japanese guy that wrote this dude and was like what the hell is going through his head?
I did like can't remember his name because you called him Captain Mexico, and that's all I can think. Sam, there you go, Jetstream Sam. I actually liked Jetstream Sam, even if he was, still kind of cliched himself, but at least he showed, at least a little bit of depth. Besides, we're going to make these children terrorists.
Yeah, I didn't care for him much, but for me it was like, by making all the other people terrible or like cliched and giving him like a little bit of character, it's like they're deliberately trying to make him the cool one so everybody likes him, and I'm just like, fuck you, Sam, whatever. So another thing that, and it's like, it's not that bad, but it is a little kind of just to me, like, it's like random like Japanese like fucking fan wankery and like the samurai were the coolest people ever. They believed in doing this and that's what kept like my ass. They believed in killing monks and burning each other in castles when they weren't fucking cutting their bellies open. Like whatever, guys. Get over yourselves. Raiden, you're not a samurai.
I did find that one level, like, okay, you're at the top of an office building, you've just done this really cool sequence where you run through an exploding hall, you've run up the side of an office building, you've jumped off of debris and all this other cool shit, you've made it to the top restricted place. There's a Japanese garden ahead because the guy really likes Japan. Okay? We just needed an excuse to put, like, cherry blossoms in a Japanese garden. And, like, as kind of goofy as it is, like, that wasn't terrible. It's like, just, like, mix up the environments. The security guard at the rocket complex or whatever, and he's like, oh, I'm a pervert, but I don't even have the courage to look at real boobies. I'm just looking at cutely dressed girls.
Well, it's funny because, like I took a look at it, like, apparently, like, tons of people love him. They think that's hilarious, and I'm just like, guys, that's creepy, like...
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the internet.
Yeah, the random Japaneseness was... Sometimes it just felt, like, kind of forced in there.
Well, it's one of those things, like, I understand that, if it's Japanese people making the game, and they want to show stuff or do stuff in Japan, like that's cool to me. But fucking don't half-ass it and, like, come out with this, like, fucking ass pull of, like, oh, the guy really likes Japan, so he's gotta... Just fucking let's go to Japan, then. Like, it's like, oh, no, but we can't do that. Japan doesn't have war or badness or anything like that. Yeah, I can tell you something I did like, and that's the music.
The music is amazing. I will be completely honest with you guys. Like, after I had, recorded the, playing through this game, I would just listen to the song where Raiden fights Mistral on loop sometimes. I like that song a lot. Like, I really liked it. It was less pleasing the fact that I died 2 or 3 times in the middle of it, but I just really liked listening to that song particularly. But overall, the music really fit the mood of the game well.
Well, yeah, it fits, and also, like, and it's something that you might not notice, like, I didn't really pick up at all until towards the end of the game when I'm dying to Armstrong, like, 4,000 times.
Yeah.
But, like, each of the songs, like, are, like, matched to the character, so, like, the lyrics are, like, whatever is going on with them and stuff, and that's something that you definitely don't see often in video games.
It's one of something that I really like is, like, really awesome and cool and epic boss music. Because you're fighting the boss, and, like, the boss should be the big boss, and you should be pumped up, and you should be fighting the boss, and sometimes I just don't feel like I'm getting that, like, even though, like, grunge rock and stuff is cool, just when you play, like, random grunge rock for fighting a boss, as opposed to, like, said, like, the customized songs that they had for, each of the bosses here, it's really cool.
It fits really well, and it makes each thing, like, obviously, like, the fights are going to be different, so it's going to be unique in that sense, but it just makes the entire setting, like, all the more real for it.
Definitely. Another aspect of the gameplay, which I personally liked, was how that they reward you for good play, in the sense that you get points for playing well, not getting hit, cutting out a lot of enemies, like, repair units or whatever. And at the end of the mission, then you get all those points, you can buy upgrades with them. Like, the upgrades aren't, like, enormous, gigantic, game-changing things. It's, like, just more life or more strength or whatever. But it's an incentive to play well. Like, if you play better, you're going to upgrade yourself faster. And, it's really... I just really like getting a score. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like getting a score. I'm kind of old-fashioned that way.
I didn't dislike, like, I did get frustrated a couple times where I'm like, dude, I was awesome, hell yeah, swept through there, baller, and then I got like a B or something. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
You're supposed to take no damage and, like, cut off every enemy's left arm individually and then cut out their hearts and grab them.
Well, no, but, like, it's, like, whatever. Like, like, I'm sneaking around and not getting spotted and, like, doing stealth kills and shit and, like, get to the B, fuck you. So you've had a pretty good run this time. Like, I'm mostly agreeing with you. I'm not angry yet.
That's because we haven't done the story yet.
There we go. It's nowhere near as bad as I thought Devil May Cry was. But I do have some problems at different points. Like, I didn't like the whole halfway through the game Ryan's like, well, I'm just gonna be crazy. Like, I don't like that. I'm not usually a big fan of, like, anti-heroes or, like, I'm the hero but I kill people type things. Like, if you're doing your job and, like, then you're doing your job and you're a soldier or whatever, but then it's just like, Jack is back. It's like, well, I don't really give a shit.
I mean, I would say that probably the biggest weird part for me is the inconsistency of the story, and I guess what they're trying to tell you. Because I did think the one part where, like, Raiden suddenly realizes that the guys he's been chopping into mincemeat for, the first half of the game, that they're just kind of, random dudes. I mean, this is kind of thing you never think about in video games when you're just, like, hacking through legions of guys. It's like, they're guys too. It's just they're bad guys and you don't think about it. And all of a sudden they force Raiden to think about it, and it's just like...
Well, no, I actually, like, I thought that was well done, up until the point where, like, Ryan's like, oh, I don't know if I can fight these guys, and they kind of beat him up a little bit, and then he's just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna, like, like, I would have really appreciated an option to, like a non-lethal kill or something, because being that, a non-lethal kill, like, you'd be able to go into blade mode and, like, chop their arms and legs off, and just, like, be like, Captain Torso, and, like, but they're not dead, and, like, they're being manipulated and stuff, so, like, it would have been nice, I think, to show that, like, Raiden, he is a good guy or whatever. But instead, it's just like, no, you're working for the bad guys. Sorry, dude.
So you have Raiden, and he kills a bunch of people even when he knows that maybe you shouldn't. And it just seems like what they want to tell me is not consistent.
Well, it's a bit weird because then at the end of the game, he's back to, like, I'm the good guy. Like, yeah, but, dude, it doesn't always work that way. Like, one of the coolest things... that, like, I saw in all of the Metal Gear franchise was in the third game where Naked Snake, he can, obviously anytime you can kill people or not kill people, but then when you go down the tunnel, the river with the Sorrow, and, like, all the people that you've killed are there, and it's kind of like, well, whoa, I'm kind of an asshole, like, and if you haven't killed many people, it's just like, ha-ha, like, marching through the river. Yeah, like, and, I mean, I'm not, like, looking for this, like, big branching story arc or something, and you go do this or you do that or anything, but it would just be nice, and, like, like, even if at the end of the game all you get for it is, hey, you're not a douche! But, so, we touched on that, and then my other big thing, that it doesn't even make me all that angry, it just makes me like, guys, come on, well, like, what the hell is this game supposed to be trying to teach me? Like, is there a moral to it?
I don't know. I mean, at the very end of the game, it's like you get Raiden, who really doesn't seem to know what he stands for, and then, like, super ultra libertarian senator guy. I don't even know, like, if that's like more like, anarchism or whatever the hell he stands for. It's just like, and it gets to that point, and it's just like, what?
Well, yeah, it's even before them, like with Monsoon and Sundowner and stuff. They're all like kind of we're strong, so we can do whatever we want.
Right.
Like, come on, Ryan, why don't you get behind this? This is cool times. And Ryan's like, no, I protect people and blah 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 blah. Until about halfway through the game where he goes crazy, and then later on it's like, but don't you protect people? He's like, well, I do, but not today. Like that was the biggest kind of like, And I think it's supposed to be like a really cool line, but he's like, my sword is a sword that protects people. It's a sword of justice. Too bad this isn't my sword! Like, oh, guys.
It's funny because I actually think in the whole scene, like, leading up to you fight Monsoon, they've actually got a number of fair points that they throw at him. It's like, you said you're that the sword who protects the weak, but who protects the weak from the man who protects the weak kind of thing. And he's like, oh, but I'm debating philosophy with terrorists, lol. And it's like, but they've got a number of decent points, I thought, and he just kind of like, hand waves that away and goes crazy. And it's like, nope, I'm just a crazy motherfucker who enjoys pain.
So looking at it though, like, and they continuously kind of like the strong can dominate the weak and the strong do it, and it's always like might makes right.
Right.
And then you kill all those guys, justifying their philosophy, kind of like like I was the strongest, so I can set the rules.
Right.
But so like, what am I supposed to walk away from this? Am I just like, well, yep, might makes right, all right, or
if you're coming away from video games looking to learn something, I have bad news for you.
Alright, so final verdict, what did you think, Zone?
This was a hell of a lot of fun to play. This is an action game, and it delivers on that. What did you think, Scotchy?
Well, despite it being pretty goofy sometimes, I had a lot of fun.
It's a quick play, you can get through it in a weekend or a couple of days, and I really recommend checking it out. So thanks for watching, guys. What are we going to do next, Scotchy?
We're checking out the expansion to StarCraft 2.
You mean Heart of the Swarm?
No, I mean the Adventures of Mary Sue.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.
Thanks, guys.
You've got villains with wacky names and strange powerfuls and a colorful back... What?
And strange powerfuls?
Did I say powerful?
Yes.
Fuck.